Sony has been doubling down with their live service plans, and that does not seem like a good decision on their part. Sure, they helped publish Helldivers 2, which was a success, but Concord came out and died after only 2 weeks. Marathon is facing a massive backlash, and their next game up on the list would be Fairgames, and even that is facing major scrutiny because we're hearing that their closed internal tests have not gone well, and it is a super clunky cross between Fortnite and The Division. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I've already covered this game quite a few times on the channel, from the initial teasers and trailers being absolutely raked across the coals by gamers to not even that long ago hearing Jade Raymond left Haven Studios. She's done with PlayStation, and she was dropping it like a rock, which we had heard even then that the closed alpha that they did, or like this pre-alpha test that they were going ahead with, was received very negatively, and that might have been a reason why she ended up just leaving Haven, deciding it wasn't worth the trouble, and now we're getting even more information, which sounds extremely bad. So this is a Push Square article. It says Fairgames, formerly known as Fairgame's $, of course, was announced alongside Sony's disastrous first-person shooter Concord as part of the firm's wider live service push. Now, companies don't understand that gamers are not happy with live service games at this point in time. Sure, there have been some pretty successful ones, like Helldivers 2, for example, but the majority of them have failed because you either have really bad monetization systems to go along with them, or companies feel like they can give people the minimum amount of content required to push a product price on them. It's not like these are free-to-play games that people are going to be able to come back to every couple of months and enjoy new content for free. Usually they are a buy-in price. Look at Concord. It was a $40 buy-in price. They didn't give you enough content. There was no PvE. There was only a couple of maps, only a couple of modes. The designs were awful, riddled with DEI. Just not a good decision. Marathon also sounds like it is going to be a similar situation if that ever comes out. A couple of maps, really only one mode, not all that interesting looking visually, just doesn't seem like it's going to be successful. And Fairgames is the cheat the rich, eat the rich game that seems it is going to have a narrative behind it. Again, we don't know. We can only judge these initial teasers and trailers, but they didn't go over well because most gamers also felt that it looked like just another DEI slop project. However, now that we're hearing about the gameplay itself, it doesn't sound like it's going that well. So of course, recently we heard that the developer Haven Studios founder Jade Raymond, a Ubisoft vet who played a pivotal role in the early success of Assassin's Creed, had departed the company following a round of bad feedback. This was the article that was originally kind of circulating. It was from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier, but it said that PlayStation leadership didn't give Haven staff a reason for her departure, but it came several weeks after an external test of Haven's first game, the online shooter Fairgames. According to people with knowledge of the matter, some developers at Haven were concerned about how the game was received and its progress, said the people, who asked not to be identified because they aren't authorized to speak publicly. So it seems that they are not very confident in the future of this game, or what they were seeing so far was wildly different than the product they initially envisioned. So she was just trying to ultimately run before the game came out and was a massive failure. Jade Raymond has done this a couple of times, though. She has flip-flopped to many companies and made a lot of money off of this industry over the years, so I guess she just has an eye for when a project is going to be successful or be a massive failure. And now, courtesy of the latest episode of the PlayStation podcast, Sacred Symbols, paywalled, more information about the project is beginning to trickle out. Apparently, a pre-alpha was distributed via PSN under the name Project Hearts, enabling a small number of participants to go hands-on with the game. According to one of those people, it is a battle royale crossed with an extraction shooter with elements of both Fortnite and The Division present, which sounds so awful. It's fine to have a Fortnite. It's fine to have a The Division. It's fine to have a battle royale, and it also is fine to have an extraction shooter, but when you try to mix everything into the pot, you're not going to get a stew, you're going to get shit. That is such a major issue. We see so many games come out now, and the development teams try to market it towards literally everybody, and then nobody ends up interested in it because it doesn't give enough in terms of one genre. Oh, well, it might feel like a battle royale because there's a million people in it, and you might also have elements that are similar to Fortnite, like building, whether it's building up walls or barriers, but because it's an extraction shooter, you can't stay in that spot for too long, and you can't play the way you want because you have to eventually extract. Like, it just doesn't sound like a very good mixture here, and it seems that, of course, Sony might have wanted them to just make the biggest project possible with the amount of money, but that means that when you have all of these different features, you're sacrificing quality of certain features, and then you're half-assing things, and then it just ends up being a game for absolutely nobody, which I've noticed happening a lot over the past couple of years. Again, I get if you have the most titles possible and the most tags possible on something like Steam, you can get more people interested in your game. Unfortunately, you're sacrificing what made those genres very successful and enjoyable in the first place, and then you're just making a product for nobody. And that sucks because even though something like Fairgames doesn't look good in my opinion, I still want it to come out and I still want people to enjoy it because I want video games to be enjoyed by everybody. Just because a game doesn't look like it's for me doesn't mean that, oh, I want it banned or I want it to be canceled, I don't want it to exist. But it's becoming very hard to not root for the failures of these games because of the people that are behind them that don't actually care about what gamers want, because the higher-ups need to get it through their thick skulls that just following the latest gaming trends isn't always going to be successful, and it isn't always fun for their customers. And when you're putting the least amount of effort into a product possible, you don't deserve to rake in the cash for it. It says, though, if you remember the original trailer, it had a contemporary Robin Hood vibe to it, as squads of fashionable rogues rob from the rich, which is kind of funny to me, and I'm not going to get into a whole discussion about it, but the original stories don't necessarily depict Robin Hood as, like, cheating and eating the rich. He's often shown taking back what was unjustly taken from the poor by the rich or the government, like taxes or unjust fines, which is definitely not as what's happening here, but whatever. Apparently, the game sees you dropped into a large urban environment in teams of 3 to 4 and tasks you with stealing from vaults while other groups of players attempt to do the same. Again, pretty freaking different, but those initial teasers and trailers got absolutely wrecked by gamers. As you can see, it is currently sitting at 4.3k likes to 59,000 dislikes on a trailer that has 468,000 views, so that is not a very positive ratio by any stretch of the means. And going back to the article, it says apparently the game doesn't feel good to play and it's super clunky in its current guise, which reflects what Bloomberg wrote in its report on Raymond's departure. The feedback to the release has not been good, and Sony said that it remains committed to Haven under the new leadership, of course, but it's been 4 years since the team was founded and more than 2 years since it was acquired outright. It seems to me that they are just not sure what they are doing with this game, which has happened a lot with Sony games over the past few years. They've greenlit a lot of them and then they've canceled them, or they've completely rebooted them mid-development, and it just seems that Fairgames is another game that is going to either have to be at least partially rebooted, similar to Marathon, or it's going to be outright shelved. What they will end up doing, I'm not necessarily sure, but either way, the teams that they have making games right now are not teams of talented people. They're not people who actually know what they're doing. They don't know how to do their jobs, and it's like they need to just clean their ranks. They need to fire 95% of the people working at these studios, bring in passionate, talented individuals, and then maybe they can start to make money again. And while Sony is obviously a massive company and they do make a lot off the gaming industry, if they continue to put out failure after failure after failure, that's not going to happen. And if I was them, I would be feeling pretty fucking worried after shoving, at this point, it's got to be like $1 billion into failed live service games. So I'll be keeping my eye on this, but we are getting multiple reports now that are saying it's supposed to be a combination of games like Fortnite and The Division, and it's a battle royale crossed with an extraction shooter. The leadership is abandoning the game. It just seems like this is going to be another Sony disaster. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.